The year was 1995. I was 12 years old, living in the small, sleepy town of Canyon City, nestled in the heart of Eastern Oregon. Christmas was just around the corner. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and the promise of snow. I remember feeling a sense of excitement for the holidays, the way only a child can. Canyon City was a place where everyone knew your name. It was a safe haven, or so I thought. Little did I know a chilling encounter awaited me. This experience would forever change my perception of our peaceful town. Our town was particularly festive during the holidays. The scent of gingerbread wafted from the local bakery. Twinkling lights adorned every storefront. Christmas carols played softly on repeat. It was a magical time. However, beneath the surface of this idyllic Christmas season, a sense of unease began to stir within me. This unsettling feeling started on a day that began with joy and celebration. The day began like any other. The sun was shining, casting a warm glow on the snow-dusted landscape. It was the day of Gokulashtami, a Hindu festival celebrating the birth of Lord Krishna. Our town had a small but vibrant Indian community, and my friends and I always looked forward to this joyous occasion. The air buzzed with excitement. We gathered at the community center, adorned with vibrant decorations and the tantalizing aroma of Indian delicacies. Laughter and music filled the air. We spent the day engrossed in the festivities. We danced, feasted on traditional sweets, and lost ourselves in the joyous atmosphere. Time seemed to fly by. Before we knew it, the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the festival grounds. As dusk approached, my friends and I reluctantly decided to head home. Little did I know that the real adventure was about to begin. The walk home was usually a short and pleasant one. It was a familiar route lined with oak trees and charming Victorian houses. But that evening, the familiar path seemed different. The setting sun cast long, eerie shadows. The once comforting silence was now filled with an unsettling stillness. We lingered for a while, reluctant to part ways. The excitement of the festival slowly gave way to a growing sense of unease. As darkness crept in, so did a sense of foreboding. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Finally, we said our goodbyes. My friends lived in the opposite direction, leaving me to walk the rest of the way alone. Each step I took seemed to amplify the silence around me. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of anxiety against the backdrop of the approaching night. As I walked, the streetlights flickered to life, casting an unsettling orange glow on the sidewalk ahead. The wind picked up, rustling the dry leaves still clinging to the branches above. I quickened my pace, my breath catching in my throat. The once familiar houses lining the street now seemed to loom over me, their windows like watchful eyes. Each shadow seemed to twist and contort, taking on sinister shapes in my mind. The weight of being alone pressed down on me. Every creak of a branch, every rustle of leaves sent shivers down my spine. I wanted desperately to run, but something held me back. A strange mix of fear and curiosity kept me rooted to the spot. As I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I kept glancing over my shoulder, but there was nothing there. Still the feeling persisted. It was as though an unseen presence was following me, its cold breath on the back of my neck. Then, through the skeletal branches of an oak tree up ahead, I saw her. There, bathed in the pale moonlight, stood a woman. Her back was to me, but I could see she was dressed in a long, flowing white gown. It billowed around her like a cloud, even though there was no wind. Her long, dark hair cascaded down her back, almost reaching the ground. She was hunched over something, her movements fluid and rhythmic. It was as if she was washing clothes, but there was no basin, no water, no sound. Just the eerie silence of the night, and the woman in white, her movements both mesmerizing and terrifying. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Fear, cold and paralyzing, gripped me. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't. I was frozen in place, my eyes glued to the spectral figure before me. As I watched, the woman slowly straightened up. She turned her head slightly, as if sensing my presence. I held my breath, my entire body tense with anticipation and dread. The woman turned, and for a fleeting moment the moonlight illuminated her face. Her features were striking yet unsettling. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes were two dark, bottomless pools. But it was her smile that chilled me to the bone. It wasn't a warm, inviting smile. It was a grotesque, unnatural stretching of her lips, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, too pointed. It was a smile that spoke of madness and malice, a smile that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move, I couldn't even scream. I was trapped in a nightmare, my body refusing to respond to the terror that consumed me. And then, as quickly as it had appeared, the smile vanished. The woman turned back to her ghostly chores, her movements as fluid and silent as before. But the image of that smile, that terrifying, knowing smile, remained seared into my mind. I knew then, with a certainty that defied all logic, that I was in danger. I had to get away, and I had to get away now. Section 8. A Mother's Wisdom. Disheartened but undeterred, I sought out my mother. She was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, the familiar aroma of her chicken pot pie filling the air. It was a smell that always brought me comfort, a sense of normalcy, in a world that suddenly felt very strange and unsettling. I poured out my story to her, my voice trembling with residual fear. Unlike my sister, my mother listened intently, her expression grave. When I finished, she pulled me into a hug, her arms warm and comforting around me. "Oh, honey," she said softly, "I believe you." Her words were like a balm to my soul. Finally, someone believed me. Someone understood the terror I had experienced. "Come with me," she said, taking my hand. She led me to the living room and pulled out an old, leather-bound photo album from the bookshelf. She flipped through the pages, stopping at a faded photograph of a young woman with hauntingly familiar dark eyes. Section 9. The Woman in White Revealed. "This is Sarah," my mother said, her voice barely a whisper. "She lived in our town many years ago. She was a beautiful woman, but she was deeply in love with a young man who tragically died in a mining accident." My eyes widened as I listened to my mother's tale. I recognized the pain in her voice, the sadness in her eyes. It was a story of love lost, of a heart broken beyond repair. "Sarah was devastated," my mother continued. "She wandered the streets day and night, searching for her lost love. People said she went mad with grief. They said she could often be seen washing clothes by the creek, even though there was no water, as if she was preparing for her beloved's return." A shiver ran down my spine as I realized the significance of the woman's actions. It wasn't laundry she was washing. It was her sorrow, her grief, her desperate hope that her love would return. "One particularly cold winter night," my mother said, her voice thick with emotion, "Sarah disappeared. They say she walked into the woods and was never seen again." Section 10. A Lasting Impression. My mother closed the photo album, her gaze distant, lost in thought. "Some say Sarah's spirit still wanders these parts," she said softly, searching for her lost love. That night, I lay awake for hours, my mind replaying the events of the evening. The image of the woman in white, her haunting smile, the story of her tragic love, all swirled together in my mind, a terrifying and poignant tapestry. Years have passed since that night. I'm no longer a scared little boy. I'm a grown man leading a full and happy life. But the memory of my encounter with the woman in white, Sarah, has never faded. It's a memory that continues to haunt me, a chilling reminder of the unseen world that exists just beyond our own. It's a reminder that even in the most ordinary of places, the past can linger, its secrets whispered on the wind, waiting for someone to hear them. And sometimes, those secrets can be both terrifying and heartbreaking.